On this video, we're going to be discussing the 7 spiritual laws of success by Deepak Chopra, one of my favorite spiritual books. And we're going to dive deep into the 7 principles, the 7 laws, so that you can understand these on a deeper level and so that you can actually reap the benefits. What's up, guys? My name is Nico Arapklis. So glad to have you here on the YouTube channel. We're on a mission right now to help 20,000 people become magnetic manifestors, and we're doing that in the form of a 90-day sprint, 90 videos in 90 days. So if you'd like to support the channel here, go and subscribe. And then also we have a magnetic manifesting school group. So if you want to be a part of that, we go live every single week. We go over these topics in depth. You can ask questions, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people in there that you can connect with, network, and other manifestors and people that are deep into their spiritual practice so that they can truly manifest their dream life. Okay, so let's talk about, just like preface this book real quick, and then we're going to dive deep into these topics and how you can apply them and take action on them. I've done plenty of different book reviews. I would strongly recommend go checking out some of them because I really take and pull out the wisdom that I heard from it, and then I apply it and show you how I applied it to my life. And that's what these book reviews are all about. I also show you how I actually get the most out of this book and retain it the most in the quickest period. I have a little hack to do that. But I like to make these book reviews so that you can actually take action on these, instead of what they call a lot of times is you develop this thing called infobesity, where you're just constantly retaining information and not outputting it and allowing it to help your life. Okay, so let's dive into this, because this is one of my favorite books, and this was one of the first books that I got into in my spiritual journey. And you can see that it's a pretty slim read, and I've probably gone back to it like 4 or 5 times at least, and it's come back to me, and I want to go back over it again, so I've started to read it as well. Okay, so let's dive into this. The first law is the law of pure potentiality. Okay, kind of an interesting phrase, but basically what this means is that you're either focused on things or you're focused on self. And always know that the world outside you is simply a reflection on what's going on inside. And so the way to really calm the nervous system, as we talk a lot about on this channel, and just get to a place of peace and harmony, because that's really where it's all at, is that place of peace and harmony. And that's when all these other laws really start working even better, when you are in that harmonic state. So how do you actually get to that harmonic state where you're not focused on the symbols, the things outside of yourself, rather focus on within, and then everything else just flows a lot more naturally and organic? Well, a couple of the ones that he talks about in this book are meditation, silence, nature, and non-judgment. Okay, those are, like, if you can just implement those 4 things on a somewhat consistent basis, it's going to help you drastically. And I've certainly applied it to myself as well. I'm always getting out in nature. I usually go up to Sedona once a month, as I live here in Scottsdale. I do my best to have some silence throughout the day, not always listening to some music or always listen to an audio training or watching a YouTube video or whatever it is. Like, have those pockets in your day of silence. Meditate throughout the day. Make sure you're calming your nervous system with the meditation, with some breath work, whatever it is that your modality that you want to do. But then one of the biggest things is non-judgment, and realizing that everything is of the same value. I made a video right here is talk about the law of detachment even further, which we'll talk about here in a second. But it's like, once you truly understand that nothing is above you and nothing is below you, that's when you have true power. And that's when you can really understand and embody the law of pure potentiality. Law number 2 is the law of giving and receiving. So think about it like this, and I think this is a really powerful law, because I have historically been a real giver, right? And you could even say it's been to a point of people pleasing, because giving is not inherently bad whatsoever. However, if you're giving at the sacrifice of you, that's when it becomes destructive. Now think about the energy flow. Like, how does energy really flow? How does a river flow? It keeps it flowing, right? So if you're just giving and then you're not receiving, you're even declining when people offer to give you things, you are actually messing up and destructing the flow, right? It has to be an even flow. So giving and receiving, giving and receiving. I asked a mentor one time, he'd done $100 million at that point, I think, well, more than that. And I said, How do I get better at getting? How do I get better at receiving? He said, have your go-to ask, but then just start practicing it. Have a give and have an ask every single day. Every time you're in conversation, have a give and have an ask. And when you're doing that, again, you're living in more harmony. And just the other note that I will say to this point is that if there's something that you want, practice giving it. If you want more money, give money. If you want more love, give love. And the more that you give and then in turn receive, it's going to act in more harmony, and you're actually going to receive that in your life. Okay. The law of karma, cause and effect. I do this and then this happens. Now, what I always like to say is that we live in a delayed universe. Okay. The actions and the thoughts and the meditations or whatever it is that you're doing and being today affects you tomorrow. It affects you next week. It affects you in a year. So I always think about that when I'm consistently meditating day in and day out. Maybe it doesn't have a direct effect on that specific day, but it will have an effect a week from now, a couple weeks from now. And when I do it consistently, it compounds. And I really truly believe that this law of karma, it compounds. So constantly be asking yourself, will this decision, what I'm deciding right now, will it be beneficial to me, to my future self, to my future family, to my future people that I care about? So always be asking that, because you know that it's going to impact you down the road, whether that's in an hour, whether that's in a day, whether that's in a week. But always be looking through that lens, and you're going to be utilizing and you're going to be experiencing a lot more harmony and peace and being in that Zen place. Okay. Now, one other thing that I would strongly recommend as well that he talks about in this book is that you want to really listen to your body. So when you are asking those decisions, is this going to affect me positively moving forward, right? You ask that question and then you just listen and you pay attention to your body and specifically your heart. If you feel a contraction, you're like, oh, I'm not sure about that. If you're feeling an expansion of the heart, you're like, okay, yes, I want to make this decision. That's the law of karma, cause and effect. Now, law 4, the law of least effort. The law of least effort is such an amazing law because you think about it, you look at nature. Nature is such a great teacher. That's why I always love getting out there. And that's what we talk about in our school community a lot, how manifestation is very similar to nature, right? You plant a seed, you nurture that seed, and then it sprouts. You know, nature doesn't try. It doesn't try to grow grass. It just grows grass, right? And the more that we can be like nature, the more that we can practice the law of least effort, and the more harmony we can have, the more that we can experience life the way we truly desire, right? So the key is to accept all, no resistance. Hey, if your job isn't working the way you want it, if your business is stuck at a certain level, don't resist it. What you resist, persist. Just accept all, take responsibility, and then just move with defensiveness, as he talks about. And think about it as this metaphor is that instead of being an oak tree, be a palm tree, waving in the wind. Think about one of those car dealership wavy guys that they have out that's getting all that attention. It's just like flowing, right? You're not resisting. You're not an oak tree and like, oh, I can't do this. It's like, no, just go with the flow. Go with the flow. And it's important to have intention and desire, which brings us to law number 5. Now, a metaphor that I always like to think about in terms of intention is that you're bowling and you're throwing the ball down the lane and you know that it's going towards the pins. Yeah, some of us like, okay, I want to get a strike, but you're not, again, like holding on tight to that. You're saying it has to be a strike. You're just saying, I want to hit some pins. And it's essentially like having the bumpers up. You know that you're going to hit something, right? And I think about that's what intention is. And where attention goes, energy flows. And I think that's really the biggest thing. When we have direct saying, this has to happen, that's when we hold on tight and that's when it doesn't happen. But when we can just set intentions, throw the ball down its lane, know that it's going to hit pins, and just know that like that's our intention, and then we just let it go. If it hits 10 pins, awesome. If it hit 1 pin, awesome. Like my intention is to hit pins, right? And going in that way. And so one of the things I always like to draw back, and something we talk a lot about in the school community, we talk about it all the time on this channel as well, is that in our manifestations, we call it magnetic manifestations because we back it up by decades of neuroscience and energetics. And so I want to bring in some quantum physics here and get a little nerdy for a second, if you don't mind. So there was a test that they did, and it was actually Einstein that did it. It was a double split test. Okay, so again, bear with me here, but it's important, and it really solidified so much for me. So basically what they did is they shot a quantum particle at this wall, and it had two doors. Okay, one particle shot at two doors, and then what ended up happening is the atom actually split, and it went through both doors at the same exact time, proving that the atom was not matter, it was actually a wave, right? So what they did next, and again, Einstein did this, he was like, saw this, and he was like, this is spooky. Okay, that was his direct terminology. He said this was spooky. But basically what they did is that they tested it again, where they had someone staring at door number 1 now. And they just stared at door number 1, they shot the particle, and instead of the particle splitting and going in both doors, now the particle actually just went in door number 1. Like, okay, that's interesting. They moved the guy to the next door, door number 2, they shot the particle, and then the particle actually went through door number 2. They took the guy away, they shot it again where there was nobody, it split again, went through both doors. What does that tell us? It tells us that where attention goes, energy flows. Now that sounds like a cool terminology, but now that it's backed by quantum physics, it's like hard to dispute, right? So that's the whole idea behind intentions, right? So where you put your attention, energy flows. I saw a quote today, or a post today, and it said the only reason that you're not living the life that you truly desire is because you're feeding the one that you don't. That's a mic dropper one right there. So if you really want to have this life that you desire, put your attention towards it, put your focus towards it, and that's where the energy is going to flow, and that's where you're going to experience it. If you keep giving your attention to things that you don't want, you're going to continue to experience that based on quantum physics. All right. Thanks for letting me get a little bit nerdy there. Now, let's talk about the number 6, the law of detachment. This is one of my favorites, and one of the ones that I know that I want to continue to get better at, because historically speaking, I've been one to hold on very tight. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I made a video on detachment. You can see it right here. Feel free to go check that out. I strongly recommend it. It was a really good book. A lot of people enjoyed it. Okay. It was a hit in our Skool community. But here's the thing, is that when you hold on tight, it lets go. Like, everything falls through the cracks, right? But when you just let go and you just trust, you trust in the wisdom of the unknown, as he talks about. There's so much wisdom in the unknown. Us humans love to know what's going on, but the more that you can just let go, you can detach, and you can say, everything is equal, everything is good, and everything that's meant for me will come my way. You can't mess up what's meant for you. You just keep on setting the intentions, you let go, you trust, you know that everything that is meant for you is coming your way. And the more that you practice that, it all comes in, and you don't even care as much, because you're just like, I'm focused on within rather than the symbols. And again, if you're focused on the symbols, it's kind of like you're focused on the map rather than the treasure, right? So focus on within, focus on yourself, focus on the meditating, the breath work, the intention setting, the nature, the silence, right? When you can focus on that type of stuff, the non-judgment, again, the non-judgment really comes into factor here so much, because if you truly believe that everything is equal, nothing is above or below you, everything is equal. And again, that's what we talked extensively on this other video of the law of detachment. When you truly understand that and you embody that, you realize that everything's good and you can truly detach. And the other metaphor that I absolutely love with just the whole idea of uncertainty and talking about the wisdom of uncertainty, when we talk about the process of manifestation, magnetic manifestation, you always think about like, okay, you're planting the seed, you're nurturing that seed, and then it sprouts. But here's the thing, is with the law of detachment, it's like when you truly detach and you trust in the uncertainty and the wisdom of the uncertainty, it's like you're planting that seed in very fertile ground. If you're trying to control everything, you're planting that seed in not very fertile ground. It's like hard, rocky dirt, right? But when you plant it and you trust in the uncertainty and know that God and the universe has everything taken care of, and you can just detach and let go and say, hey, God, you got to figure it out. I'm trusting you, trusting the process. Okay, everything is going exactly the way it's supposed to. We can do that. That's when you actually have that fertile ground, and then your plant actually sprouts a lot easier, a lot quicker. And the last thing I'll say about that is when you do attach, you're actually limiting yourself. Because think about how expansive, how big God is, how expansive and big the universe is. And we as little baby humans think that we have control over it. We don't even know what's possible. We don't even know what we don't know, right? So when we let go, there's so much more out there, because when we try and control, we're truly limiting ourselves. So when you can let go and just trust, know that God has got it figured out, bigger and better things will oftentimes come in. And then the last law is the law of Dharma. And it's interesting because I had a conversation with a guy on Instagram who sent me a message, and he was asking about, how do I find my purpose, or what meditations help you find your purpose? And that's what this chapter is all about, is finding your Dharma, your purpose in life. And our purpose in life is really to find our highest self. And one of my favorite stories is that there was a mentor of mine, he was talking about this, and he said, my biggest fear is that I get to the end of my life and I meet my highest self and I don't recognize him. Right? That would be scary, right? I imagine when I get to the end of my life, I get to the end of my life and I'm looking at my highest self and I'm looking in the mirror. It's me, right? That's really the goal. And I truly believe, based on what Deepak says, it's like, that's the point of life. It's to find our true gifts, and it's to find our highest self. So if you continue to work on that and you do all these, practice all these laws on a consistent daily basis, you're continuing to step into that higher version of yourself, and your purpose starts to come in. I found my purpose, a couple of years ago, of doing a podcast, connecting with people, building people up, helping people build their vision, helping people manifest their dream life. It's all because I implemented all these practices years prior. I even made some notes here, and this was actually 4 years ago. I'm looking at my notes down here, and I have it all in this book, and this is where it all started. So the more that you can tap into this stuff, yes, it's not going to come overnight by any means, but the more you step into these practices, the more that you can actually find your purpose and your Dharma, becoming your highest self and finding your true gifts. And I was very fortunate to do that, but I did the work. I did the worksheets, all the things that we put together, finding my values, figuring out who I am, developing my character, getting clear on my vision. And those are all things that we support our school community with inside of our Vision Espresso program, which is actually a audio from your future self in your voice. So it helps you really find your purpose. But then we have our accelerator program that helps you really find who you are, get rid of those limiting blocks energetically and just from a principle basis, and then clearing all that out, and then finding your values and finding truly who you are, and specifically designing that character. So again, would strongly recommend that you go into the school community. You can network with a lot of cool people and learn a lot more, and you can ask questions in there, as a lot of people do. So we've got hundreds of people in there at this current moment, probably going to be thousands here soon, and we'd love to have you next. So again, thank you for watching this video on the 7 spiritual laws of success. I strongly recommend that you go check out some of our other book reviews. I strongly recommend that you check out the video that we did on detachment and how to really truly detach. So I'd strongly recommend that. The links are down in the video description, as well as all the other links that I mentioned in this video. But thank you so much for being a part of this video. Make sure and subscribe to this channel if you want to be a part of this mission, 90 videos in 90 days to hitting 20,000 subscribers, so we can help you become a magnetic manifester. That's our goal, and then we'll scale that to 1 million followers at some point. So thanks for watching the video. Truly appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you on the next video.